Hey guys, Downphoenix here, and today I'm playing some Killzone Mercenary on PS Vita through my PlayStation TV. But that has nothing to do with the subject at hand today. I'm actually here to talk about Nintendo's upcoming NX console or system or whatever you want to call it. You know, it's been a very hot topic for rumors lately. There have been numerous rumors about the NX over just the past month, and I wanted to talk to you about some of my theories as to where these rumors are headed. I don't think that the NX is a home console, nor is it a handheld device. If I had to put my best guess forward on this, I believe it's actually a smartphone. Now, I know some of you are thinking, wait, hold on. A smartphone? Seriously, Downphoenix, you're going off the deep end on this. It doesn't make any sense at all. But just hear me out on this, okay? I really have some good theories behind this. A lot of it has been, of course, the actions of Nintendo themselves and some of the other usual people that like to chime in on their future plans, of course. The first point of contention I want to bring up is the recent announcement that Nintendo anticipates on selling 20 million units in the first year. Now, this is, of course, just a rumor that has been recently announced, but you have to take into effect the loftiness of that goal. It's simply unrealistic for a traditional gaming platform. At least, it's unprecedented. Just look at the sales of the Nintendo Wii. In its first year, it sold about 5.8 million units. It probably could have sold a lot more, except Nintendo had supply constraints involved. Then we have the fastest selling home console, which is the PlayStation 4. The fastest selling in its first year. It managed about 13.5 million systems. Then we have the 3DS, which is the second best-selling system of all time and Nintendo's best-selling system of all time. It managed about 15 million in the first year. So if we are to take Nintendo by their belief that they're going to sell that many systems, then that means that they're going to be taking a different approach, one that is going to cater ultimately to casual gamers. And where have casual gamers moved on to? Smartphones and tablets. And tablets, in case you haven't noticed, haven't been selling so fantastically lately. So that's why I fully believe it's got to be a smartphone. Now, on one hand, obviously, smartphones can be pretty expensive. Phones like the Samsung Galaxy S6 and iPhone 6 unlocked start at about $650. But honestly, the majority of people out there don't pay that up front. Usually they're going to purchase it under a 2-year contract or through an installment billing plan through their mobile phone carrier. That tends to be the cheapest way to get a phone up front. And so you'll have people that normally be weary about spending $500 on a home console or $250 on a gaming handheld. Oh, all of a sudden, I can go down to the AT&T store and get it for like $50 sales tax or something like that up front and be able to walk out the store that day with it. That's going to make things a lot easier for impulse purchasing like that. Not to mention, since it'll be a smartphone, it will serve as a useful device for your day-to-day functions. Now, Nintendo has announced that recently that they're not using Android, but obviously they are. Now, the question would be was whether they're going to be using the actual Google-based Android or they're going to be using a forked version, kind of like how Amazon does, where it completely separates itself from the Google Play services. That approach hasn't been so successful except for the Amazon Fire tablets, but I believe that's probably where Nintendo's going to go with this. And the reason, of course, for that is simple. It allows them control of the marketplace of the apps and games that are installed, whereas if you had a regular Android device, it could easily be rooted and operated to do what you don't want it to do. And that could even lead to potentially, people hacking, not technically hacking, but basically converting the games to work with other Android smartphones, which Nintendo may not necessarily want to run on those phones. So that, and also their announcement of working with DNA, formerly known as Mobbage, which is a mobile game developer that has had a lot of success in that segment. That partnership really makes a lot of sense, honestly. Now, supposedly, this partnership is just going to be for the Nintendo connectivity as far as the connections between PCs, smartphones, tablets, Wii U, 3DS, and NX, and also some mobile game development. But I truly believe that they're also going to be helping Nintendo on the software end of it as far as actually getting a steady and stable phone platform, through their forked version of Android, and connectivity services and everything like that are going to be involved in, obviously even helping with developing some of the core apps that we're going to see, like the browser and the phone and the SMS messaging and all that good stuff. Now, I know a lot of Nintendo fanboys are probably having a heart attack right now, thinking, "Holy crap, no, this can't happen." Don't worry, guys. Nintendo is not going to be abandoning the 3DS or the Wii U. As a matter of fact, their whole strategy has a three-pronged approach. So the NX is going to be just another Nintendo device that you can enjoy. Iwata had recently said something to the effect, abandoning Wii U development wouldn't make business sense. And obviously, could just be something to say just to appease the people out there that are worried that Nintendo is just going to kill it off. But he actually said something really interesting. I'm going to paraphrase here. Basically, he said when the NX is launched, they have to build up from zero, whereas they already have a volume of 3DS and Wii U hardware already existing. And so it is highly inefficient to stop releasing titles for 3DS or Wii U after launching the NX. That is a very good quote, and it really does make sense what he's saying. However, it's kind of the opposite of how Nintendo has operated in the past, if you look at it here. I mean, they have had some, history, obviously, with supporting the NES and the SNES after releasing the SNES and the N64, respectively. But Nintendo has pretty much abandoned that approach afterwards. Look at the Nintendo 64 to GameCube. There was a gap of like 8 or 9 months in between the last N64 game and the first GameCube game. And this pretty much happened again in the gap between the Wii and the Wii U, where we had several months in between the last Wii game released by Nintendo and the first Wii U game. Now, we did have the GameCube to the Wii, where we did have Zelda Twilight Princess release on both consoles, I think about, 3-4 weeks apart, something like that. The GameCube version actually came out afterwards. However, I think that was more of the exception to the rule, because obviously Zelda was a huge franchise and would make a lot of money on any respective platform, and it did. Whereas the last games that we saw on the N64 and Wii, respectively, were pretty niche titles that, honestly, it wouldn't have mattered if they delayed it for the next console or not. They probably wouldn't have sold that great to begin with. Now, I have a kind of out there theory on this, but I do believe that the NX is actually going to be running the same type of architecture that we have in the Wii U, essentially being equal in terms of hardware power. Now, that might seem really strange because you're looking at the Wii U. It's a box, obviously, that you have in your home that's several times larger than your smartphone and takes several times more power. Those are all very good points. Now, the reason why I believe that this would be the case is because of the strategy that Nintendo is going to be doing for the NX. Also, if you look at the advancement of smartphone chipsets, like the NVIDIA Tegra K1, that is a mobile chipset that only draws 3 to 5 watts of power and is more powerful than the 360 and PS3, which are roughly equivalent to the Wii U's power overall. Now, obviously, we have had rumors where the console could release as early as July 2016, which would only put it about 1 month after Nintendo is going to apparently be showing it off at E3. So that is a pretty thin gap that we have to think of here. But let's not think too much about the timeline of this. I do believe fully that given the power of a chipset like a K1, with a 2 year gap in time span, I think a chipset that powerful could reasonably be put in a sock that would draw only 1 to 2 watts of power, which is what most smartphone socks actually run at. The K1 doesn't actually run on a smartphone; it runs on a tablet or a Android home console because it's just too much power draw from a regular smartphone. I mean, I guess they could theoretically do it, but it could blow up in your hands and might run for 1 hour or something like that. And so that's not realistic for Nintendo to do. But given how fast the technology has evolved, I don't see any reason why Nintendo couldn't have a device like that that would be able to draw a smaller amount of power like a regular smartphone so that you can get several hours of battery life, on the go. Now, I think Nintendo has a specific plan for the NX. Now, obviously, it being simply a smartphone would probably turn off a lot of people to it. And Nintendo does want to make sure that they can get the hardcore fan base adopting it. And so I do believe they have a home strategy for the NX. I imagine that this would be a combination of a charging or docking station that you can connect your phone to when you're at home. That docking station can connect to your television via HDMI or wireless text like Miracast. And then this docking station can also have USB ports, obviously, for charging your controllers and, plugging in an external hard drive for additional storage. And, it can pair wirelessly with the Wii and Wii U controllers. And all the tech that would be doing this is going to be built into the smartphone. So another way you could look at this is Sega Nomad, TurboGrafx Express. Those were game systems that were essentially portable versions of their home consoles. And the NX essentially is going to be a portable version of the Wii U. It's going to have the same capabilities. It's going to play the same games. And it's going to be in a much smaller package. Now, there is, of course, the challenge of disc-based Wii U games. I believe that either they're just going to be 86 for the NX, and you'll have to get them digital download, or disc-based games would have to be played when you're at home using the docking station. Maybe it could have an optional accessory, or one that's included that would have a disc drive to play the games through. Maybe the docking station is pretty much like a stripped-down Wii U that just has the disc drive and, all that good stuff. That could very well be the case. As far as storage is concerned, I'm sure it's going to have 32 gigs, maybe even 64, similar to the Wii U. And then we're also going to have micro SD card support. And obviously, when you're at home, you'll be able to take advantage of the USB external storage. And if there is the disk drive option, you'll have that as well. Now, here's another way you could look at it. Look at Sony's strategy. They have the PS3, the PS4, and the PS Vita. Now, for some games, they have cross-save and even cross-buy, where you can buy one game and you get it for all of those platforms, or at least all the ones that are available on it. The NX is going to be taking the approach instead of being one platform for everything, at least as far as a Wii U. Although I think there's even the potential that it could play 3DS games. Given that it'd be a smartphone, it's possible it could have a dedicated chip for the 3DS game cards, although I imagine it'll probably stick strictly to digital downloads because Nintendo has been pushing a lot for that recently with a lot of the eShop, promotions and also the Nintendo Club stuff. They've been doing a lot of digital downloads off of that, and so obviously that's just where the market is going. That's just the most profitable for these game companies to do, and so they're going to try to find a way to implement that in a way that gamers are comfortable with. And then there's the announcement that Nintendo is supposedly partnering with Foxconn in order to handle the manufacture of this system. Now, Foxconn, of course, is known for making a lot of stuff like computer components and things like that. They even manufacture the PlayStation 4, although they are easily the most famous for manufacturing the iPhone. And they also have contracts for manufacturing phones for other manufacturers like LG and BlackBerry. I mean, let's face it, guys, we are in a day and age where we are increasingly pushing towards convergence of our devices. I mean, think of all the different things that your smartphone today does that you needed several other devices to do in the past. I mean, your smartphone obviously is your phone. It is also your email, your web browser, your clock, your calendar, your camera, your wallet, and yes, your game console. There's just so many things that these devices do, and the gaming market has pushed towards mobile and PC. And given Nintendo sees a huge growth in mobile phone gaming in Japan, it obviously just makes sense for them to go in that direction, to get a piece of that pie. And it doesn't really make sense to do so on a platform like an iPhone or a standard Android device, because they're only going to make a small cut of what they could do if they developed their own platform for smartphones. Also think of how revolutionary something like this could be. Obviously, we've had smartphones and we've had game consoles, and they have been entirely separate things. Even though smartphones obviously can play games, Nintendo is essentially trying to make a device that can be both, you know, at a whim, whenever you demand it. And that is going to be a very interesting thing to see. You know, that might even possibly get some hardcore gamers into smartphone gaming to see what they've been missing out on. There has been a lot of crap, obviously, but hey, we could say the same thing about PC gaming and home console gaming too. There have been a lot of crap games out there. So it's been pretty much a moot point to say, oh, there's a bunch of crap games on mobile phones, because that's pretty much just gaming in general. There's just a lot of crap games. That's not something exclusive to any one platform. So I hope you guys have taken time to consider what I've said. Do your own research, of course. Don't pay heed to me, but at least consider what I've said and think about it for yourself. I just don't think it's likely that Nintendo is going to be replacing the 3DS so soon, because we just came out with the new 3DS, and I don't believe that the NX is going to be replacing the Wii U in the capacity that we would want to either, based on what we've heard and said, you know. And so I don't know if this is the ideal situation, but I just believe this is where Nintendo is going, and it could be a very exciting direction if it works out for them. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, what your theories are on what the NX is going to be. Till then, Downphoenix out.